Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And as I'm doing throughout the year, I'm going through the entire Disney animated collection. And since I did the first film yesterday, I'm going to be doing the sequel today. So this is the 2006 film Bambi II. Here is your trivia question for today. What does Flower consider the most ferocious animal? The answer will be at the end of this episode. This film is not actually a continuance of the first Bambi movie. Its events take place between when Bambi's mother passed away and when he becomes an adult. So this story starts off with Bambi joining his father, the great prince of the forest. But the prince believes that he has other duties that are much more important than watching a child, and that it should actually be another female deer that should be watching his son. We do get to see Bambi enjoying being a child as he hangs out with his friends. Both Flower and Thumper are back for this story, along with Thumper's sisters. Our group gets to spend time with Friend Owl, Feline, a jerk deer named Rano, and even celebrating things like Groundhog's Day. All the while, he is trying to prove to his father that he is worthy of staying with him. But will Bambi be able to prove himself, or will his father actually send him off to go live with another doe? This movie was directed by Brian Pimentel. He also co-wrote it, and in fact, he actually did two voices in the movie. He did the voice of the groundhog and the porcupine. Disney was unfortunately never able to get the rights for the sequel novel, Bambi's Children, The Story of a Forest Family, but they did take some elements from that story and added it into this one. Now, a lot of inspiration for this film actually came from ideas that were cut from the original one. Here's something interesting you may not be aware of. Bambi 2 is actually a record breaker. It is actually the film that has been the longest time frame from the original to a sequel, as it actually had been 64 years between the two films. One other thing that's also very interesting is that Bambi 2 was the last animated film to be released on VHS. And in case you didn't know, the last live action film to be released on VHS was A History of Violence. The voice of Bambi in this film was Alexander Gould, who also actually did another voice before this film for Disney, as he was actually Nemo in the movie Finding Nemo. Also, if you didn't know, he would go on to play the character of Shane in the TV series Weeds. The voice of Flower in this film was done by Nicky Jones. This was actually his first voiceover work that he got, but he would actually go on to be the voice of Chowder in the TV show of the same name. One of Thumper's sisters is actually voiced by Ariel Winter, who would go on to be in the TV series Modern Family as the character of Alex. The Great Prince of the Forest is voiced by Patrick Stewart, who actually is the only actor in this film that was alive when Bambi released in 1942. Now, Stewart had actually tried out many times before for other Disney films and never actually got those roles. Some of those roles were King Triton from The Little Mermaid, Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast, Jafar from Aladdin, Zazu from The Lion King, Ratcliffe from Pocahontas, and Zeus from Hercules. The audio used at the beginning of the film is actually stock audio from the first movie. This is probably pretty obvious, but just in case you didn't catch this, Rano is in fact the deer that grows up to be that one in the original film that tries to fight Bambi over getting Feline. Other possible titles for this film were Bambi and the Great Prince of the Forest, and one that was just called Bambi and the Great Prince. There's a scene in the movie that I absolutely have to talk about. So there's a sequence where Bambi walks back out into the meadow and he begins to hear what sounds like his mother's voice. And apparently, this is actually just a deer call that's being used by a hunter. But I find it absolutely terrifying that it sounds like his mother. And I don't know if anyone else out there has seen the movie Annihilation, but I absolutely got vibes from one particular scene. And if you've seen Annihilation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So when it comes to the film Bambi 2, I actually ended up liking this one more than the original. And that's mainly due to the fact that I felt that there was more story to it and it was a bit more entertaining. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, what does Flower consider the most ferocious animal? So, as the boys are talking about the scariest or most ferocious beasts, Thumper mentions a mountain lion, Bambi mentions a bear, and Flower mentions a turtle. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.